Hello, sixth grade historians. I'm going to go ahead and read the pages out loud on the textbook pages that are given to you, possibly in front of you to look at, or you can just follow along on my screen. If you prefer to read it independently, then go for it. If you want to listen to me, go for that too. I'm going to move myself up here and then I'm just going to start reading. The first leaders of the Sumerian city-states were priests, not kings. But when conflict arose among the city-states, the way cities were ruled began to change. Development of kingship. As city-states grew, people in different cities began to argue with one another over control of the land and water. These conflicts sometimes led to war. In times of war, priests helped choose the best person to lead the city-state into battle. After the war was over, this leader was expected to give up his power and return to normal life. But some of these military leaders kept control of the city-states even after the war had ended. These military leaders became the first kings. Kings and priests. To stay in power, kings needed to support the support of the priests. So kings were careful to respect the priests' rights and powers. In turn, priests declared that the gods had sent the king to rule the city. This idea that kings were chosen by the gods became common in Sumer. Together, kings and priests created religious ceremonies that supported royal power. Sumerian kings eventually took over many jobs that the priests once did. They hired workers to build new canals, temples, and roads. Each king also served as the city's chief lawmaker and judge. Written laws. Some rulers collected city laws into a law code or a written set of laws. The earliest known law code was issued around 2100 BC by Urnamu, the king of Ur. The Urnamu law code included laws about marriage, slavery, causing harm to another person. One law read, "If a man knocks out the eye of another man, he shall weigh out a half mina of silver." A mina is a unit of weight that has varied over time, but was approximately 1 pound. The Babylonian Empire. After the destruction of Ur, many groups invaded Sumer. One of them, the Amorites, came from the northern Mesopotamia. The Amorites took control of several Sumerian cities, including Babylon. At that time, Babylon was small, an unimportant city on the Euphrates River near present-day Baghdad, Iraq. But under the king named Hammurabi, Babylon became the center of a new Mesopotamian empire. The empire forms. Around 1792 BC, Hammurabi became the king of Babylon. For 30 years, he solidified his power and built up his army. Then he launched a series of attacks against other Mesopotamian city-states. Within a few years, he had united southern Mesopotamia into what we now know as Old Babylonian Empire, or Babylonia. Hammurabi was an excellent military leader. He was also a skilled ruler. Like Sargon, after Hammurabi built his empire, he had to create a government strong enough to hold it together. He sent his own governors, tax collectors, and judges to rule distant cities. He spread out his well-trained troops over the empire. Hammurabi oversaw a number of public building projects and encouraged the growth of trade. Hammurabi's Code. Today, Hammurabi is best remembered for his creation of the Hammurabi's Code, a set of laws that governed life in the Babylonian Empire. Many of the laws that had existed since Sumerian times, but Hammurabi wanted to make sure everyone in Babylonia knew the laws they were expected to live by. In the introduction to Hammurabi, in the introduction to his code, Hammurabi wrote that he wanted to bring out the rule of righteousness in the land, to destroy the wicked and the evildoers, so that the strong should not harm the weak, so that I should further the well-being of mankind. Hammurabi's Code. Hammurabi's Code nearly...
Mrs. Newman, call extension 6002, please. Mrs. Newman, call extension 6002.
right, here we go. Hammurabi's code included nearly 300 laws. Some of these laws have to do with the crimes such as robbery and murder. Hammurabi's code set out for specific punishment for these crimes. For example, one law reads, "If a man put out the eye of another man, his eye shall be put out." Although some of these punishments may sound cruel by modern standards, they did encourage social order. Other laws that Hammurabi's code dealt with private matters such as business, contracts, taxes, marriage, and divorce. Many of these laws treated various groups of people differently. For example, the penalty for harming someone of the same rank in society was greater than harming someone with a lower rank, such as a slave. Hammurabi's code was more detailed than Hurnamu's laws code. In fact, it was the first major attempt to organize and write down all the laws that governed a society. It established and enforced the rule of law, or the idea that all members of the society, even the rich and powerful, must obey the law. This idea is kept part of the modern democratic principles. Daily life in Babylonia. Hammurabi's code and the other Babylonians' writing give historians a great deal of information about life in Babylonia. Most people's lives revolved around agriculture. Food had to be grown and distributed. Irrigation canals had to be kept clear of silt. Wool had to be collected and woven into textiles or cloth. In the cities, many people bought and sold goods. They used new technologies to make tools, weapons, pottery, perfumes, and medicines. Babylonian artists were also known for their stone and bronze sculptures. They also used gold and precious stones to make jewelry. The legacy of Sumer. Sumerian culture stayed alive in Babylonia just as it had in the Akkadian Empire under Sargon. But despite Hammurabi's efforts to build a strong government, the Babylonian Empire eventually collapsed after his death in 1750 BC. In the years that followed, the once great civilization of Sumer slowly faded away. Sumer's influence, however, did not disappear. I lost my place. The many peoples who had come into contact with Sumer civilization learned from it. They brought ideas and customs from Sumer back to their homelands. In this way, Sumerians' advances in technology, farming, writing, learning, and the law lived on.